it's a really interesting context here in the Luftmuseum and in Amberg. It's I feel my family roots are Bavaria, and I kind of understand. People wonder often about the detailed nature of my constructions and how I can manage to do that. And I just think, well, you know, it's simple. You just one step at a time, and you just keep going. And I can see that in the particularly the Baroque, but not even just Baroque, but the kind of craftsmanship that I see in the wood carving and in the traditional crafts and art of this area. You know, there's a meticulousness and obsessiveness, I think, and I think that's how I can make the things I make. Is that I don't think of anything else. I just keep making until I have it done. When I was in art school, I was doing more conceptual work with, you know, photo, text sort of things, and I that was my training. It was more from conceptual people, conceptual artists, but for me it didn't feel quite right, and it felt it wasn't a lot of fun, I suppose I could say, and so as soon as I finished art school, I thought I just need to do something fun, and so I made my first inflatable because I had materials, and I had a vacuum cleaner, and I had all the things on hand to make it, and I had a dream about there was a dream about two rams, two goats, you know, like the mountain sheep we have in Canada with the big horns, and it was two goats, and they were breathing into each other. They had their noses attached to some mechanism, and they were breathing into each other, and I thought, wow, that's something to try and make. So I made a horn. My very first one was a large horn, ram's horn, and I thought that would be the only inflatable I would make. But there were so many things about it that I just started exploring one thing after another, and they became more detailed. At the time, too, there wasn't a lot of figurative art being made. This was in the early 90s, and figurative art was kind of taboo. And there were a few people making figurative art, like Louise Bourgeois, and she was an influence, definitely. But she was kind of on the outside at that time. Famous, but not quite up there with a lot of the more abstract and conceptual artists that were working, minimalist and so on. And so my first figures, I kind of was encouraged to put away and not show. And I didn't show my first set of figures for a long time, until I was invited to do an exhibition, and in another town some distance away in Halifax. This was like 4 hours away from Toronto. And I thought, well, maybe if I put them in a box and had the mechanism right in the box, and then all they have to do is plug it in, and the figures come out of the box, and that's the installation. So that seemed conceptual enough. And so I did that, and it just sort of took off. But people responded more to the breathing and the lifelike nature of these figures, and at that time my figures were very simplistic and rough. I was really searching to understand how to render the form in material and air, and it took a long time to learn how to make very accurate patterns. So in some ways I like the early works that are very rough and searching for the form and not so certain of it. And then it just was one after another, bigger, more detailed, different installation opportunities. And that's, I guess, how it started and continues. Okay.